Okay, so my next review, I'm going to be watching La Cenerentola. This was staged and directed, so this is a theatrical based on play by, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Gioacchino Rossini, who lived from 1792 to 1868. So this is an Italian play, or perhaps it falls under the opera category. I'm not 100% positive. So hopefully there's subtitles and I'll understand it, and I think it'll be interesting. I'll just give you my first version of watching an Italian version of Cinderella. I read Cenerentola before, and I like the fairy tale Cenerentola, so kind of hoping that this will be a really good, fun, different take on the story. So.
Bravo, bravo, magnifico, woo! Encore! All joking aside, I really did enjoy this experience, and it was quite the experience. And I really did give it an encore. Watched it once, and then I immediately watched it again. La Cenerentola, the opera, is by, I'm probably going to mispronounce this again, Gioacchino Rossini, and the lyrics was written by Jacopo Ferretti, based on the fairy tale by the French writer Charles Perrault. I know I mispronounced that. This opera was originally performed on January 25th, 1817. In some ways, you could say this was one of the first contemporary retellings of Cinderella. I'm not totally sure. But since this film is definitely made a long time after 1817, I think it can be safely categorized into the historical placement of Cinderella, historical fiction, that is. In our first scene, we are introduced not only our titular character, but her wicked stepsisters. And I should backtrack a little bit on the titular character part, because this opera has a second title, which is Goodness Triumphant. So that tells us a lot about our main character. She is that good and sweet character who teaches moral virtues of being kind to strangers. In this opening scene, the stepsisters are showing their vanity. One thinks she's very graceful and a great dancer, which could be questionable, and the other one thinks she is a great beauty. And while she's certainly not ugly, she's not exactly a great beauty either. And then enters an observer. At first we see him in a suit. He's obviously a gentleman, but then he puts on beggar's clothes and comes knocking on the door. He's going to test these women. This kind of character and plot is not uncommon to Cinderella or fairy tales in general. Usually the fairy godmother is a magical being, and the beggar will be some kind of magical being. However, in this, there is no magic. He comes, he's offered coffee and bread by Cinderella, even though her stepsisters try to shoo him away. He immediately goes to the prince, because this stranger is actually the prince's tutor. Our prince character is Don Ramiro, Prince of Salarino. One of my favorite scenes is actually his first scene. He also comes in a disguise. He claims to be the footman of the prince. Meanwhile, he has his real footman pretend to be the prince. In this way, he gets to observe and meet these ladies and get to know their true characters without them fawning over his title. I really enjoyed this scene. Of all the romantic comedies as well as fairy tales that I've watched on screen, few give me real butterflies in my stomach, and this scene did. Granted, it's another example of instant love, although in reality it's an instant infatuation, and I believe the prince does recognize this as an infatuation. The story plays out with the two getting to know one another a little bit before going to the ball. Some of the things that happens in between is a little different, and it seems to be more than just a ball, but kind of a house party, as he has Cinderella's family come over as his guest to the palace. Another switch up in this is instead of a stepmother, it is a stepfather. This character is quite the contrast. He has a cold, harsh side and seems to be even maybe physically abusive towards Cinderella, whereas he's kind and affectionate and concerned about his own biological daughters. One of the things I really enjoyed about Prince Ramiro is how he wants to protect and shield this strange girl that he's only just met. He shows that he is caring and passionate, and I really like the performance. All the performances are very strong, but the three strongest and standouts to me was the stepfather, the prince, and the valet. The real valet who is pretending to be the prince. Now, I hate to cut this scene short where we first meet the prince and he's getting to meet our main character, but this is a review, so I do have to cut out some of the best parts a little bit, and I'm sorry to be talking over so much of it as well, but it is what it is. Now, the valet. His character he's one of those that in a comedy would steal the show, and in some ways this opera is a comedy, and it's really fun to experience another culture and their sense of humor. It's both in the dialogue, it's in the playfulness of the characters with one another, it's in the circumstances, and the valet, as he's pretending to be the prince, he gets in the role and he gets carried away, and the prince has to shoot him these glances, and yet the valet kind of shrugs him off and keeps going. It was a really fun story. It's not the fairy tale Cinderella that I read as a kid. It's very different from what I was familiar as calling the Italian Cinderella, and yet it also has various elements of that story. It has quite a bit of a uniqueness and a character and a charm all of its own. It was really interesting to watch this right after Cinderella, where Cinderella was definitely a outright comedy. This one is a little bit of a comedy, and it was just really fun to see that. In one of the scenes, the valet pretending to be the prince says, "Hey, I can only marry one of you," to the stepsisters, and then the real prince, still pretending to be a valet, proposes to them. Of course, the stepsisters refuses him, thinking that a servant is beneath them. A little later, after the ball and Cinderella has shown up, she has kind of a reversal of this scene, and it sets off the part that we're most familiar with, Cinderella running away and then the prince having to go and seek her out. There's one more change to the story, Instead of a glass slipper, it is a bracelet that is used to identify the prince's true love. Now to get to the score sheet here. As I said before, the acting is phenomenal. I have to give that a 5. The story is a 4. The costumes, the sets, a lot of the elements to this story have high marks. The characters, Cinderella, I think, in this is above your average Cinderella character. The prince, to me, he just, maybe it was the actor more than the story, but I have to give him a 4. He's one of my favorite Prince Charmings of all the films or even books I've read based on Cinderella or other fairy tales. The stepsisters, although they weren't completely flat, and the performances again were very strong. As far as their development goes, they were just pretty average. So overall, after I add everything up and divide and whatnot to get our average, our score is a 3.26. This is the highest score so far, and it's well earned. Il compagno vedrai e a lui